Hi, and welcome to an episode of the Jet Rails podcast. I'm Robert, your host, and today we're going to be talking about centralizing your e-commerce data, your inventory and your order data, being able to, in essence, manage inventory and orders across your different sales channels, your e-commerce websites, your marketplaces like Amazon, and so on and so forth. And with us today, we've got Costas from the Megaventory team. Megaventory really works with a lot of that order management and inventory management. And so I'm going to be picking picking your brain today, Costas. Would you do the honor actually of introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background?
Yes, thank you, Robert, for the introduction. My name is Kostas Mamasis. I run Megaventory. I'm the CEO of Megaventory. Basically, we are an application software as a service that manages inventory orders. We handle purchase orders, sales orders, and we do connect with various sales channels as well, such as Magento, for example. And that's pretty much it.
Well, our regular listeners and viewers are going to know what question is going to come next. I have to learn a little bit about the company name. How did you come to call the business Megaventory?
That's a good question. We're in the business since 2000. I think that the domain name is registered since 2007. So I don't really remember exactly how I came up with that name, but I have to tell you that primarily I was concerned about finding a good domain name. So that was the top priority. Okay, so uh, having a domain name that sounded good was my top priority. Obviously, probably was not the best option, but even at the time, it was really, really difficult back in 2007 to find an available domain name for your company. So I remember that they had a few options, like yeah, some options listed there, like 5 or 10. And then I asked a few friends around, what they thought, was best for a company name, and Megavendor was that I would say the one that got the most votes, and it was available. So I took the domain name, and that's how it became also the company name.
Yeah. I can tell you from 2007 to now, you probably know as well as I do. It's gotten so much harder that
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
many names are just taken that. But it's interesting that even then, it was already a challenge finding the available name.
Yes,
Um,
I think now even two or three word combinations you cannot easily find a domain name like that. You need to spend a significant amount of money to find a good domain name.
yeah. Well, fun challenges for new and growing brands and folks that are rebranding. So the merchants that you're running into, so they've got some kind of an e-commerce platform as the maybe the core of their business, at least of their online sales. Where else do you see them also focused? Are there other places, other marketplaces and things that you see them commonly selling through?
Well, yes. Most of them they sell through Amazon. I have to say the huge percentage of these clients are selling through Amazon. Now, our client base is also also focuses on B2B. And there are a lot of I would say small companies that offer B2B solutions. Like they offer, that they upload, your products in a catalog form online, so that that your B2B clients can have a look on your products and then order online. And they have a few tools that are really attractive to wholesale businesses, different pricing structures and stuff. So uh, that's another aspect, of course. I mean, if the the company is into B2B, that's a very good way to attract more clients. But again, I see Amazon, of course, for retail, and smaller apps that handle your product catalog for B2B. This is what we're actually looking.
Running into the most. That's
Yes.
interesting. And, you know, a lot of retailers don't always realize what the growth in B2B e-commerce has been like in recent years. But, especially as people weren't at trade shows and as, there's less interest in waiting to get a catalog for the season or fax in an order or however people
Yes,
were doing it, that this all has been going electronic one way or another.
it is also interesting because I mean, businesses, they don't realize that, B2C and B2B are not much different, I have to say. I mean, if you, from a business perspective, yes, okay. But from a technical standpoint, uh, getting your business ready for B2B, it can be something as small as possible, like, adding an extension, a plugin to your existing, for example, Magento store or to your existing WooCommerce store. So from a technical standpoint, it does not take much, to start with B2B. Okay, there are tools out there, that they can help you out with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. With Magento specifically, I know that Headworks has a lot of extensions for B2B. The nuances that it is so similar at the heart of it. You've got a product catalog, you've got orders, you've got inventory being managed, you've got customer data. Um, that and all the interactions start at the same baseline.
Yeah,
It's really nuance beyond that. So it's different, different payment providers, maybe financing or other things, that are more B2B focused, different freight shipping in some cases, and options there in the checkout, dealing with different user accounts where maybe, there's an overarching account that maybe the approver, the person making the approval within a business gets to see, or someone in billing might
yes, but
access just to
Robert,
get the
in the core of
invoicing.
it, essentially, we are talking about managing stock, maybe pricing layers, but in the core of it, it is the same actually.
Yeah,
At the core
so
of it, yes,
at that point, it's some nuance, it's some integrations. I know that a lot of the SaaS platforms have a hard time with that because they don't have as much of that flexibility for some of
exactly.
those front end features and things that some of the open source platforms really cater to. But it is interesting. Even things like sales tax, making it easy for shoppers to be tax exempt if they provide the right certificate or information. Those little bits, sorting that through can be extremely important in B2B. But functionality wise, that, let's say, building a retail Magento store versus building a wholesale store, or something for a distributor, there's a limited amount of customization on top, that it's finite.
Yeah.
So absolutely true. And thinking about some of the back of the house operations, and I know that's where your team has even more focus. What types of fulfillment challenges do you see these businesses having as they're trying to fulfill orders coming in from different sales channels? Is it setting reserve inventory, so if they sell too much over here, they don't also sell it over there? What's happening in the inventory management and the fulfillment that's really making it hard? Is it identifying which orders to prioritize? Is it making sure that that
Yeah.
the orders coming in from Amazon aren't sitting while the orders from the website are being fulfilled, or vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, well, first of all, this is an excellent question, and usually, when I do demonstrations of our products, I have similar concerns from the people that I'm demonstrating the product to, business owners and operations managers. Um, but this is a very the truth is that this is a very business specific question, and the answer can be complex even with one sales source, right? So, for example, I mean, the most usual case is that um, what businesses are doing is to prioritize the fulfillment of orders based on the order date. Okay, so that's the most usual case. However, in many cases, orders may contain items, for example, that they expire. So orders containing such products need to be shipped first, right? Or in another example, a business may choose to fulfill the B2b orders first because of a contractual agreement. Or in another example, a business may choose to ship out the orders with high value first. So, there's no an
There's no
answer.
one answer, but it sounds like businesses need to make concrete decisions on how to prioritize.
Well, yes, yes. The business logic should be there, okay, but also the tool should allow you to to simulate the logic into the tool. Uh, and on top of the things that I mentioned before, if you add multiple sales channels into the equation, right, the solution gets more and more and more complicated. Um, so the solution is, in my point of view, to have a tool that allows you to transfer your the business logic into the application. And you may have a business logic, for example, that says, okay, I need to fulfill first, the Amazon orders, for example, or the Magento orders, or
Hmm.
I need to fulfill, the orders of that huge client, because I have a contract with them. So whichever order I get, I need to fulfill that immediately. And you need to be able uh, to simulate that business logic, uh, and that's the difficulty. And one of the things that we do in Megaventory, because we have identified that problem, and what we are doing is, uh, we have a module, and we call that list views. All right. So what we are doing is that we create these views based on a multitude of conditions, so that each business can simulate exactly the exact physical operation and the business logic that they want to have. Okay. So for example, you can create a view to list only the sales orders that originate from Magento, for example. Or you can create a view that list only the sales orders that are yet unfulfilled, still unfulfilled, originate from Magento, and they are placed from client XYZ. So you can create these views, these order views, and uh, another thing that we do is that you can assign views to people inside the organization, the business, so that its user will see a very specific dashboard of these views, and people can work in parallel, and each user can have their own set of views. So even though there is not a single answer to that question, I think that the backend tool that someone will use must be able to accommodate, um, the business logic that the business would like to apply for order fulfillment.
Yeah. Basically, it shouldn't be left up to whoever the shipping clerks are, or what have you, to sort out at their
No,
desk,
no,
through
definitely
multiple
not.
back end systems.
If you're dealing with 10 orders a day, everything is possible. The flexibility is huge. But if you're dealing with 100 or even 1,000 or more orders a day, everything needs to be organized. So that's the difficulty. You know,
Economies of scale. Yeah.
exactly.
And you know, I had some thoughts, things that I wanted to tackle that were really timely with you. I know that in the last couple of years, we've seen all these supply chain issues. We've seen that just in time inventory, keeping just the right amount for what you need and no more on hand can get you into a lot of trouble because, when supply chains break down, whether you're a manufacturer and you can't get more raw goods, or whether you're a retailer and you can't get more finished goods, whatever the case may be, um, we've seen the weakness of that kind of solution. But at the same time, it's very hard to overinvest into inventory, especially you mentioned things that might expire, or that might not hold up as well over expanded periods of time, or that just may not be in high enough demand long term that you can't always know what the market's going to want, what consumers are going to want. So, has the technology gotten better at forecasting and determining how much inventory you should have on hand, when to reorder, how much to reorder?
Well, there is a lot of hype lately about using AI in forecasting, and I have to say yes, there are results. Okay, um, I'm not an expert in forecasting. I have seen some demonstrations of forecasting software using AI, and I have also seen demonstrations of forecasting software. That they use the traditional um, uh, mathematic formulas. For forecasting, and there's a huge research area. I have to say that I'm not really convinced that AI is. It's a tool that can be used for forecasting. I think that traditional methods, at least for now, they work better. Okay, of course, AI is a catchy name, so it sells better. But I think that traditional forecasting algorithms and models they work nicely. I have to say, and there are a lot of applications out there, that they offer forecasting tools, software as a service as well, but also, again, it depends again on the economy of scale. I mean, it's different, for example, for Boeing to forecast inventory than, a small shop with hundreds of items. Um, so I have to say that I would stick to, the traditional forecasting models for now. Until we see something from the artificial intelligence side of things that really is a leap forward.
Look, I always feel good when software companies tell me that the computers aren't taking over yet. That
I mean,
yeah,
when it comes to
that
computer,
we yeah.
I mean, when it comes to computer vision problems, then AI is really is taking over the world there. But in
Yeah, well,
forecasting, it's not. Um, I mean, I think that the traditional models that exist, the mathematical models um, are solving the problem in an adequate manner for now.
yeah. And I have seen interesting technology out there, things that help in different ways with some of that predictability. Perhaps if it knows that it's rainy in a certain area, to switch the products that are being displayed on the website to use more of that personalization to show that shopper something that might interest them more given the weather.
Yeah, it's all
Uh,
about
you know, m-
pattern recognition. So that's
yeah.
what's it about. If there is a pattern in your historical sales, then AI can help. Yes. But that pattern, traditional forecasting methods can also, fit into that pattern. That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying,
Well, being
for
able to
forecasting,
determine that people are going to start hoarding toilet paper, I don't expect the AI to fully predict that one yet either. So I think some of these things, there are challenges that are surmountable, and then there's some that are just fringe that that there's just so much that we can do about them.
yeah.
But I'll switch the conversation a little bit toward pricing, because I know that related to a lot of this fluctuation on market, it's been getting harder to monitor cost fluctuations, especially for those that are more on the B2B side, more on the manufacturing uh, and earlier in the cycle. But just in general, that the cost of goods, even for retailers, is changing a lot. Fuel prices, other things fueling it. Supply chain challenges fueling that. Uh, has it become harder for these businesses to maintain their healthy profit margins? Is it, because I know that the average retailer isn't necessarily changing their prices on an hour by hour or daily or sometimes even weekly basis. That a lot of the times, that the cost of that shirt or whatever it may be is pretty static in the catalog. um,
For
have
retail,
you found that
yes.
that's also another challenge they're trying to address, that they need to be a little bit more on top of these more frequent fluctuations, and
Uh,
that are being caused by inflation and all these other pressures?
Well, I think that there are two questions there. One is, okay, are they being able to cope with the price changes? The purchase prices that change continuously, and it depends. If you are a small company, you have a few vendors that you buy from. It's difficult to look for new ones. It's difficult to negotiate. It's difficult to switch suppliers continuously. uh, for a small business, yes, it's difficult, but a small business should also understand, what the profit margin is, and should be able to track that. So a good software, for example, should report on the gross profit margins, so that you can make business decisions. Now, another aspect is, but of course, this is a bit of an advanced, topic. But if you start to grow, and then you have access to many suppliers, and then you can purchase the same products from different suppliers, uh, then you need something to gather the price information from these suppliers, so that you can make up your decision where to buy from. And that was one of the main challenges and the opportunities actually that we saw when we started the company. That was a core offering at the time, back in 2008, when we first launched the first version of the application. Was, how do we connect many suppliers to the product, so that we can have like price availability and lead time information there, so that somebody that's creating a purchase order can understand where to purchase from. So one thing is, again, to to understand, the basics, which is the gross profits and the margins. And as you start to grow, you must have access to tools that you can use in order to compare these prices, and make up your mind for what it's best for your business, where to buy from. That for example, that supplier ships faster, but it's more expensive. And if you think about it, a real challenge is also, um, how to gather all that information, how to connect the system of your supplier to your system, so that you have real time pricing information. And that's another, topic for discussion. So through API, okay, and how do these APIs get connected? And now, as you know, we have applications that offer API connectivity, such as Zapier, right? Uh, which I think it's a great idea, because you can connect different platforms together. So you can have, let's say, the system of your supplier connected together with the backend system you're using. So uh, I think that technology is getting better at that, in providing options to small merchants, so that they can have all that information together, so that they can uh, you know uh, make better business decisions. Essentially, that's what's about it.
Yeah, and it's what we all do anytime that we're on Amazon. There might be 100 people, 100 businesses selling that set of headphones or that razor or whatever it is, sunglasses, whatever you could come up with.
Yeah,
And we're trying to pick the one that's selling it the cheapest with the best quality control, the best reviews, and that's going to ship it the fastest in a lot of
exactly.
cases, that's got the prime delivery or whatever. And now just applying that same thought process to the back end,
But
to
what
dealing
if
with your inventory and
the
such.
problem is that, okay, when we're doing that in Amazon, we're searching for one item, okay, or maybe two or three items. Businesses, they do that for hundreds of items. So the problem is not that simple. Imagine if they have to spend, like 10 or 20 minutes to look for the best price from the best merchant, and multiply that by 50 or 100, so that you can have a PO ready. So the problem, again, it's economy of scale. I mean, for us, it's easy. But for a business, it's really difficult, especially, if you have to pass that PO through an approval stage. So,
Yeah. And so it is interesting. And I know that the last few things we've been talking about are really driven around the data and the analytics. And I know that that's where a lot of the improvement comes in on the merchant side. That it's listening to your data, it's having the data, having it centralized, and actually acting upon it. Are there other data points that you find that merchants are often not paying enough attention to or want more access to, but haven't figured out how to get at it or how to make it actionable? I know it's a bit of an open-ended question, but is there something else there other than what we've talked about here in some of the inventory management and ordering and pricing and such that you find that's often sort of left on the table or often high on that list of desired improvement for these merchants?
Well, I have to say that I see a lot of businesses that have only an e-commerce background. They tend to not pay attention to the purchasing side of things because that usually uh, small businesses they start with they have an idea and then they want to upload a catalog of products online so that they can start selling. And they do that and they start with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. uh, the I mean, and they get used to the idea of uploading, a product catalog and then sell online. However, I see that they, after a year or two, they need a backend system, and the first thing that I think they are amazed with is the way a backend system can report on the costs. Okay, they basically bring all the purchasing part of the business, um, and they manage it with the tool. Now, when they do that, immediately they have real time access to the inventory, but also because they create their POs and their bills with a backend tool, they have a real-time view on their costs and profits and their inventory value. And I think that is what is missing from businesses that operate online only, and they've never used a backend tool. Okay, and they have only used, for example, Magento. Um, so when they bring a backend tool in their business, I think it opens up a new world for them because they can see reports that they were not able to see before. Yes, they could see revenues, but they could not see accurate costs. Okay, so they could not have the profits accurately reported. So that's what I see. Again, from businesses coming um, from an e-commerce background only.
Yeah, and look, a lot of people get into e-commerce and they have a passion for, for selling product, for marketing product. That the back of the house, I agree with you that operations can be, especially as you scale,
Yes.
can be more challenging. That often these are operations that they've never dealt with at scale in the same way. I mean, look, Jet Rails, we deal with this because we provide the what they're looking for on the web hosting, where they don't want to be tech companies. They don't want to be dealing with the security and the performance and all that. They want someone like us that's going to come in and manage it. Their passion isn't around servers and Linux and web hosting,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
so we find that it's the same when it comes to a lot of back end functionality and operation. That it's not always as exciting, but it's absolutely what helps that growth trajectory and to make all that efficiency possible.
well,
So,
I mean, the key element here is that if you scale, everything is different. Everything, and it's not a one size fits all operation for when it comes to supply chain management and order fulfillment, for example. Businesses operate differently. So, uh, and I mean, that's the way it works, and it will always work like that. Uh, and for businesses to cope with the demand that is growing, they need to change their tools. Uh, and of course, uh, the tools change usually when people change as well. Because when you start a business, you don't really have experience in which tool to use for backend management. So you need to bring somebody in to assist you with that. Um, so, as you grow, you need to change your tools. And of course, you need to allocate resources because, as I said before, I mean, receiving 10 orders a day is different than receiving 1,000 orders a day. And it's an entirely different scenario. And you always have to evaluate the processes again. And so it's a process that never ends. You always have to optimize and changing the tools according uh, to the level that you have currently, and then again you reevaluate in the future. So it's a periodic process. It never ends.
Yeah. No, it never ends. I think that's, uh, and that's business that I think, a lot of people like to think that businesses that have some root in technology that they're static, but I don't care whether it's the marketing and now, there's new channels like TikTok or whether wherever you go, wherever you look
Exactly.
at in the industry, I could keep, you know, touching on that there's optimization and that there are leaders that are pulling us all forward. So, Amazon tells people that, oh, look, if you order now, you'll have it by such and such a time. Well, now shoppers want to see that on other websites.
Well,
And,
you
a
cannot be
lot of
static.
these things we have to
That's that
keep up with consumer expectation.
it boils down to you cannot be static. You always need to keep moving and finding new tools to run your business and finding new opportunities and finding good talent. A business cannot be static. If you're static, you will die after a few years.
Yeah.
That's a rule.
Well, and on that happy note, before we wrap it up, I know we've really just thrown some good, high level thoughts at the listeners and viewers. But anything else that you want to add? Anything that we didn't quite touch on today, or that you're sort of speaking of forecasting that you're seeing in the near future that you think that people should have on their mind?
Uh, well, I think that it was a great conversation. Actually, there are a lot of topics that we can dig deeper, but I think at a high level it was a very good conversation. I don't think that we left out something. Um,
Hey, I take that as a personal win.
well, yeah.
uh, I, I did something right today, right? Don't tell my wife. But well, on that note, Costas, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. For our listeners and viewers, as always, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy selling out there.